Welcome to the Love Your Inner Athlete podcast, your go-to source for all things mental fitness and sports. Whether you're an athlete, coach, parent, or professional, you will learn as you join us to dive into inspiring conversations with those who have worked to develop their mental fitness. You will hear from people who've put in the work as either an athlete, coach, parent, or professional. In each episode, we bring you discussions and expert insights on developing resilience, focus, and mindset. Discover the concepts of mental fitness and learn how to use it to create consistent, durable confidence in both sports and life. I'm your host, Hans Schulstead. Let's get started. Welcome to the Inner Athlete podcast. I'm Hans Schulstead, your host today. Pleased to be joined by Justin Lochner. I first met Justin when I worked with his college team. He was the starting goalie, if I remember correctly. He played at my alma mater, Augsburg. I reached out to him because he had a lot of outstanding performances at Augsburg. So, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Hans. I'm excited for it. It's been a long time, and I'm just grateful to kind of pass on some of the things that I learned over the years and things that I still apply today.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your path to Augsburg. Did you play juniors before you got there?
Yeah, right out of high school, actually went to Sauk Rapids Rice High School, just north of town. I had a chance to go to St. John's, but as a goalie, there's only so many spots on a team. I could have joined St. John's and probably been a third stringer and ended up going to play just junior hockey actually in St. Cloud. So at the time it was junior B, and now it's got a different name for it, but gave me a chance to kind of raise my stock and ended up getting recruited to Augsburg, where I got to start as a freshman. So it worked out pretty well for me, I think.
How many years did you play there?
Yeah, so we called it Augie Tech back in the day. Now it's Augsburg University, but played 4 years. I think going in, I was among 3 or 4 goalies total on my freshman year. Competed, had a lot of competition the first year, and 2 folks decided to leave after I kind of took on that lead role. I was able to start, I think it was something over 100 games, but we had a solid team. Yeah.
Well, so tell me, what was it like playing at Augsburg and playing in the MIAC?
Gosh, boy, you're asking me for, that was over a decade ago now, but I remember just the competition, how it changed from my freshman year to my senior year. I think first couple of years, Augsburg was in the play-in game, and we didn't quite make it. We lost a few stronger leaders after my sophomore year, but it was shocking to me how the top teams weren't consistently the top teams. You would have thought St. Thomas would have been number 1 all the time. And I don't think there was a single year while I was at Augsburg that St. Thomas was the top team in the MIAC. So there was always teams changing, and the MIAC is constantly cycling through competitive and different, throughout the years, kind of turns over.
Well, so when I worked with your team, what were some of the biggest takeaways you got from the time I spent with your team?
Well, I think we spent a lot of time actually freshman year setting a foundation for how to team. I remember doing different exercises with you and come in. I don't know that coming into Augsburg, I had a lot of experience in mental preparation. There's things that back at that time you were coached on, preparing yourself for the game in other ways, eating right and getting your dynamic warm up in. The more I grew, or the higher level of play that I got to, the mental prep really became a bigger priority. I think especially my freshman year, I remember doing a lot of visualization exercises, and I think that made a huge difference in just giving me a chance to mentally get more reps. And when I wasn't getting as many reps physically on the ice or in games. So I think that was the biggest help that jumps out to me now, looking back.
Do you use any of the stuff that we talked about still today?
Actually, it's a coincidence that we've kind of been planning this conversation here recently, because it does come up, just the things that we did. I remember some of the things that you and I worked on individually were kind of containing all of the clutter and the stress and kind of breaking that down and setting it off to the side so that I could focus on the game, or I made it, maybe it was the practice. But there's days in my professional life now where, and as a parent too, there's so many different things that are complicating my current task, right? And using some of the skills that you taught me, being able to compartmentalize things, set it off to the side, and put it in a place where I don't need to think about it for the next 15 minutes or 2 hours has been kind of a good way to handle and manage stress. So yeah, that's definitely like one of the big things that even if I don't play today, I'm still using those same skills.
Do you play beer league hockey?
I hate to say it, but no, I don't. Someday I might throw on the skates and skate out, but the amount of defensive support that you get on the ice as a goalie, it
I'm aware.
tends to go down a little bit once you get into beer league. So yeah, I haven't prioritized that so much these days. I actually got rid of go ahead.
You get defensive support in the first 5 minutes, and then everybody gets tired, and then you don't get any. It's breakaway after breakaway.
That's right. Exactly. And that's kind of why I actually got rid of my leg pads. So I don't get to play as much, but you would be surprised. There have been occasions where a team reaches out because they need a goalie, and I'll use their starters' leg pads to play for.
Really?
Yeah. It's, goalies are a hot commodity these days.
Oh, yeah, I know. So tell me about the best coaches you've ever had and what made them the best coaches for you.
There's a few that come to mind, and I think the similar trait that they've all had has been more of, it's been all regarding or all surrounding the trust that they've developed with me or in one another. Whether it was my high school goalie coach or the assistant coach back in the day, or even in juniors, a guy that I competed with in high school became my junior hockey goalie coach. And we just had a lot of respect for each other. And then even in college, my goalie coach there was who I moved next door to here after college.
Pete.
Yeah, Pete. There's always been a higher level of trust with all of them, whether it's talking about stuff on the ice or they've all established relationships where we're talking about things outside of hockey and sports. It could be life, could be school, it could have been social stuff that was going on in my life at the time. And they were always a good sounding board to talk about things that were bigger than the game. And I think that made them the best coaches, right? Because there was higher level of trust with them. And I could go to them if I was having a hard time with anything. And I knew they had my back. So I think that's something that as a coach now, I try to promote or create with the athletes I work with.
So where are you doing your coaching and who are you coaching?
Yeah. So it started back in college where I was working with Pete on the weekends doing some youth hockey coaching. And even these days I get on the ice, I don't know, a dozen times a year, working with different teams or working with my nephew's hockey teams up in Rogers, who I've worked with their same goalies year over year, just a few times getting on the ice, but establishing some trust. And I've touched down in Wayzata, Armstrong, Mound, St. Louis Park. Gosh, the West Metro here has kind of been my home for a long time. So easy commutes. Usually kids that are between 8 to 15 years old in that youth hockey range, whether we're doing weekly clinics or if I get the chance these days to work with a specific team, that's always fun. It's entertaining to see kids, you work with them for 10 years and then you see them in high school or after. It's like, oh my gosh, worked with you when you were so tall. And now you're growing into this person that's doing things on the rink or on the ice that I would have never guessed back in the day. Yeah, I've enjoyed coaching in the West Metro here. It's been good.
What have you learned from coaching?
Coaching, I'll say coaching and mentorship. Even in my professional life, I do a ton of mentorship. I think, I'll start with what I'm grateful for and why I enjoy it. I love influencing the trajectory of kids, of peers, of mentees to increase the slope or the steepness of their trajectory, right? So even today, I do a ton of work with our new hires. And I guess in the past as a coach, and what I enjoyed from that most is like being able to see something that an athlete didn't think they could do. And then after so many reps, they actually build confidence and they realize the smile on their face is the best way to describe it, is like seeing their accomplishment, right? And recognizing that they're capable is the most gratifying thing with mentorship or coaching. It's getting people to recognize their potential, right? It's been really rewarding for me.
So how did you first become a goalie, or what drew you to being a goalie?
In small town Minnesota, if you weren't a good skater, or maybe you didn't understand which way the puck was going to be going next, you got put in net.
Was that you?
I think that was me. Yeah. As a defenseman, I think I ended up on the wrong side of the puck a few too many times. And they said, hey, you know what? Maybe you should stick back there. And then our team started winning. And I don't know if it was because I didn't have a two-handed stick in my hands, or if it was because I was making saves, but it was rewarding to have a sense of accomplishment, like the sense that I was contributing to the team. So whether they were hiding me or it was actually a good spot for me, that's kind of all where it started back. I don't even know if they have ponies these days. Are there ponies around, or is it just mites and squirts?
It's just squirts.
Yeah. So it all started back in ponies.
Yeah. So let's jump into your time at Augsburg. You had a game where you set the NCAA record at the time. I don't know. Has it been broken? Do you know?
I don't think it's been broken, but every couple of years I get a text message with a news article in it that somebody else tied it. There's been 2 or 3 goalies that have tied it. The record was for the most saves in a game. And
98, right?
That's right. There's been a few goalies that have tied it. And some goalies have let in fewer goals than I did. Kudos to them, man. I let in 6 goals that night. But I am really going to celebrate when somebody actually wins the game. I don't think there have been any of the goalies that have tied the record actually won the game. And I'm really looking forward to that.
That was a 4 overtime game, right?
Yeah, it was actually against Gus Davis. And the only way that we could get that many shots in the game was to keep playing. And we had 104 shots against me, and the other guy had 55 shots, which isn't anything to scoff at either. He played a good game.
Yeah. Do you remember how you got your way through that?
Yeah. I've talked a lot about it with Pete and with other folks who understand what it means to be in a state of flow. Typical stuff that I remember now is like, I was having so much fun. I didn't really think of it as, I wasn't concerned. I remember the state of mind like, hey, we just got to hang on because we got to give our guys another chance. We're going to get another shot on that. We might get one in here. And it was really entertaining. I remember the stadium or the arena was packed because the MIAC basketball championship was down the hall where we were playing. And when that game finished, the entire hockey arena filled up from the folks that were watching that game, came down the hall to watch our game. And it was just, I don't think I didn't really feel a sense of I'm super focused or anything like that. It was just the joy of the game and feeling relaxed and exhausted all at the same time. But I don't recall any sense of fear, or it was just this, I was just having so much fun playing that night.
So you felt like you were in a state of flow that night?
So, it was obviously a big playoff game, but I didn't feel any extra pressure because of the circumstances. It was hard to describe.
Well, so what was it like after the game, knowing that you just put on a show, but yet you didn't win? Like, how did you come to terms with that? And how long did it take you?
I remember being interviewed by the Mankato news team after the game. I had the camera in my face, and somebody told me that I broke a record after the game. And here I am, just kind of devastated that we lost. I didn't even know there was a record before the buzzer sounded. And days passed, and somebody told me, oh, they announced that you broke a record in that 4th overtime. And at that point, whoever told me this said that I knew it was a jinx. And I don't even remember hearing the announcer say that. So that's what I mean by when I say I was in a state of flow. I just didn't recognize any of the other variables outside of the game itself. But when somebody told me that I had broken a record and they, were talking to me on camera, I remember a sense of pride, an accomplishment. Hey, look what I did. And I don't know that I gave my team enough credit at the time for keeping us in the game. I probably could have done a better job of that. I don't remember exactly what I said, but there was a sense of pride, and I don't think the loss had hit me at that point because I had known that I'd held the team in the game for so long, but
Mhm.
it was probably maybe it could have showed a little bit more humility in that moment. Not that I was bolstering or showing my pride too much, but I don't think the gravity of the loss had hit me yet because I knew I had done everything I could to keep us in the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a tough
Yeah.
question to answer, Hans.
Did you play any pro hockey after college?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. It was on my radar. I was thinking about chasing that down, but I ended up I had accepted a job offer at my current employer before I graduated, and my start date was set for 2 weeks after my time at Augsburg. I figured I'd pursue the guaranteed income versus the joy that I would get from playing the game more. It took me a few years in my desk job to maybe realize what I had missed out on. It's 2020, it would have been fun to play a little bit in Europe and make a few bucks to travel, but I think that's all it would have really amounted to. Maybe a missed opportunity.
That brings me to another question because everyone knows that organized or non-beer league hockey comes to an end, right? And for some kids, it's after youth or high school or college. Most college hockey players, a small percentage of them go on to play any kind of pro, right? So, how did you, knowing that the end was probably not that far away, for you continue to grind and motivate yourself as you went through the grind of a season or a summit?
I think, going back to a decision I made when I was in high school to pursue junior hockey, I remember our coaches at the time would ask us to write down our goals. And one of my goals in high school was to play hockey for as long as I possibly could. I still remember the layout of the piece of paper that I had turned in with that on it. And my goal was to play as long as I could. And I didn't know, you know, my senior year if I was going to be done, but I knew that I wanted to do my best, right? And just like with any job now in my current profession, I didn't want to leave anything on the table, and this sense of you talk about the grind and keeping your head in it. There's uncertainty on what tomorrow's going to bring, right? Am I going to be the starting goalie? Am I going to have a job tomorrow? Regardless of what that is, I feel like there's always been a sense of just doing my best and not leaving anything in disarray because it is a small world. It's a small hockey world. It's a small world in whatever profession you get into. In my space, in healthcare, it's a small world. You never know who you're going to need to lean on later. You always want to leave a good product on there and your own personal brand, right? You all want to have a positive personal brand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, next question. How did you prepare for games? Like, what was your routine?
Yeah, good one. A ton of visualization, but gosh, there was always a little bit of, you got to have a PB&J, just a light snack. I'll start there.
What brand of peanut butter?
Oh gosh, I don't remember the brand, but I was always a crunchy peanut butter kind of guy. But I'd usually pack a few PBs.
Goalie.
Yeah, right. Oh, actually,
Crunchy peanut.
I can do better here. I lived with one of my backup goalies at the time, and we always had a game of whether it was almost like a trivia question. If you're going to add strawberries or bananas to your PB&J. We had some special names for them, some good memories there. But yeah, maybe a more unusual pregame meal, a Jack's pizza, which I wouldn't recommend anybody having a full Jack's pizza before a hockey game these days. But road games were always PB&J. The point is, once I got to the rink, you're going through your regular dynamic warm-ups, and usually before there might have been some time before the on-ice warm-up that I could do some visualization. And even in juniors, I was doing this a little bit, but you could find me in a different locker room, a quiet room, lights off, or with a towel over my head, visualizing and going through, separating all of the stress that's gone through my head and all the non-hockey related things and compartmentalizing those and setting them out to the side, and then going through different situational plays, whether we're on the penalty kill or there's a rush or it's a 1-on-0 or a 2-on-3, a 3-on-2. Well, different situational plays that I'd be going through, just trying to be creative on visualizing what the arena looked like, what the stands looked like, what the scoreboard looked like, what uniforms my team was wearing, and then trying to apply that into the visualization exercises I was doing always gave me a little bit more prepared for what I might get myself into during the game. And that was always either before the on ice warm up or even after the on ice, right before the game, where I'm going through some glove saves, blocker saves, different things like that. So, yeah, this has been a long time, but bringing back some good memories, Hans.
Yeah. Well, next question. Like you decide, or at the time when I was working with you guys, like what I was doing was not necessarily the mainstream, and you embraced it, and you were willing to ask for help. What what did you do, or what would you say to someone who is concerned about their own perception of the world's perception about asking for help for this part of the game or life in general?
I think at the time you had to be willing, and even now, got to be willing to be wrong or not know, be okay with the uncertain of exploring different things. And when we started working together, I already had an idea of, you know, I think this is a good thing. So I didn't really have any concerns about it. I mean, I was the guy that was throwing a towel over my head and people are walking by as I'm doing visualization. So didn't exactly mind it. But asking for help today, I mean, if I feel like I know a lot about something, it's hard for me to ask for help on that thing, right? Because that's my thing. Back in the day, I was a goalie. I don't need help being a better goalie. But, maybe, yeah, certainly at the time, I was always trying to be the best. But in my environment today, asking for help I have had mentors since you and I worked together that have encouraged me, very little gets done by one person alone, right? It's much more likely that you're going to be surrounded by a team that's going to be helping you accomplish a certain goal. So asking for help with mentors, leaders, teammates, it's way more common these days than maybe it would have been back then, and maybe that's just a maturity thing, right? Recognizing the gaps in your own development. So yeah,
Well,
hopefully.
well, what would you say, like, as you look at your life now, like, how has being a college athlete impacted you and your current role? And tell people a little bit more about your role so that
Yeah.
they can get some context when you answer the question.
Yeah. So in my role today, I am part of a large consulting team. We've got about 2,500 people in my department that have all sorts of expertise across the healthcare continuum, right? I am definitely not the expert in any one area. So my role is to understand a little bit about what everybody on my team does and make sure that when I hear about a problem, I'm pointing our clients back into the right people in my department.
Well, so in what you're doing, how has being a college athlete helped you to do your job today?
Thank you. So today, my team is 2,500 people instead of 20 or 30, right? So being able to interact and understand the different personalities on the college hockey team and how each player on your team responds to what you might do, or how your coach leads you, or the assistant coaches, or your goalie coach. I think there's always going to be people that you report into or support you, and being on a team, like knowing how to operate in a team. I feel like in a professional setting, some of the most important skills that I see today in our higher performing team members are their soft skills, their social skills, how they can read a situation. There's probably some people on a hockey team that know how to crack some jokes, right? Maybe the way that you've got a portion of the team that responds differently to something the coach says versus another part of the team, forwards or defensemen or top line guys, fourth line guys, whatever. And those social dynamics, the EQ or the emotional interpretation, right? People who can do that are probably some of the stronger folks. And I feel like because I was on a college hockey team, I think a lot of that carried forward, and I'm able to mold how I work with other people on the team better because of my experiences on the team.
Okay. Is there a save you made in college that stands out that you really remember or like still brings a smile to your face?
Boy, there was a 3-on-1 that the puck got passed to somebody on the outside. I swung over, did the splits, and the person shot the puck through my 5-hole. As I was sliding, I put my glove hand behind me, and I actually caught the puck with my glove as they were shooting 5-hole. So that's one of the more unique, memorable ones. But I feel like I remember more of the goals against that are burned into my memory.
The ones I always tell goalies, there's no such thing as a soft goal because none of them ever count for two. They all count for one, right? Which is, I feel like, is a good reframe because, I mean, I get that you're Bears, but like, if you think of it as there's no soft goals or bad goals, then it's easier to recover. What's one thing that you know now that you wish you would have known when you played or before you started playing college hockey or juniors for that matter?
Boy, regarding the play or career, say more about that. There's one
One.
thing that comes to mind.
Go ahead.
Something that I wish I would have, if I could go back and do it again, I think I would have approached how I played differently. As a goalie, there's really only one of you. And there might have been, I think at the time, I might have had a sense of entitlement going through it. And, whether I'm stepping out of the net to catch a breather when one of the softer shooters comes down on me, I can take a break. Or if there's something in the locker room, maybe how I prepare for the game or how I see my role on the team. I think if I could do it again, I might take a different approach that would stress more leadership. And I don't think in youth hockey or high school hockey, I don't think I hadn't seen a ton of leadership coaching. You think about the captains and the assistants who get nominated for those positions. It didn't happen until college where I started to see, this is actually how a captain should operate and how they support and lean into other players. And now in my profession, I think about the leaders who are not nominated that are still leaders, right? In my department, who step up and support other people when they are at their weakest. And I feel like if I could go back and be that leader, I would lean into the leadership shadow as maybe somebody who's not the best player on the team, but I feel like there was an opportunity for me to be a better leader back in the day and develop my leadership shadow earlier to support others.
Yeah. Okay. And then what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given in your life?
Boy, that's a tough question, Hans. The best piece of advice.
I like asking tough questions.
The best piece of advice, something that resonates with good performance or poor performance, is that tomorrow is going to be a new day. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. And whether you are on a high today or you are in the dumps tomorrow, you probably have a chance to either get better or you could get worse. Going back to something that my high school coach told me, Jerry DeGagne, he said, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. That was something that he had talked to, when it came to practice and maybe guys aren't pushing themselves, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And at Augsburg, the goal was for the nationally recognized, top wrestling team. On their walls, they have a thing on the wall that says, get 1% better every day. So the point being, if you are riding a high today, tomorrow you could get served up a cold plate of humility, right? So keep a level head. Yeah. And even if you're in the dumps, maybe you fail at something, tomorrow's a new day. The sun will rise, and that's something that sticks with me.
So how did you get 1% better every day?
Looking at the little things, breaking down the little things. Like another thing I've heard recently, what do you do when you have a huge problem that's just, we use the term boiling the ocean these days, right? You can't boil the ocean at one time. But if you do have a big problem, you got to take it. If you got to eat an elephant, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. So, I think that's probably the best approach, is getting down to the nitty gritty details getting tactical on, mastering your craft and breaking down your craft down to the nitty gritty. In hockey, whether it's your stride or your movements, your positioning on the ice or your glove positioning, whatever it might be, even your state of mind is one of those bites. If you're trying to get better, 1% better, get to the fine details and work on them.
Anything else from our experiences together that you'd like to share with the audience that you thought brought value or was really helpful, or something that I said that was really profound?
Boy, you're making me go way back in the go back machine here, the time machine. Might have to get back to you on that one, Hans.
That's
something that has crossed my mind recently is how when people finish, the people that I've known that have finished their hockey careers, right? That's something that I can connect on with my work colleagues today. We've got people in my department that were Olympic hockey players or Division I hockey players. And they're from the West Metro here. They're from Minnesota. And when you set down you hang up your skates competitively and you lean into the next chapter of your life, I feel like everybody goes through a season of unknown and frustration, and it's a challenge trying to figure out what your role is on a new team. And something that I've chased over the years has been that camaraderie of a team sport. And kind of going back to what I was talking about with the leadership shadow that I wish I would have developed earlier is around leaning into that camaraderie and carrying that forward, because you're always going to have teams that you're surrounded by. You're always going to have clients, and you're always going to need a support group. And what matters is what you do next and how you pick up the people around you that are going through a tough challenge and help them be better for it and I guess influence their trajectory. So I don't know if that's profound or not, but something.
That's great. So who are the Olympic players that you work with or that you know?
Well, the one that comes to mind is Danny Cameronese, who was a multi-year Olympian on the women's hockey team. And she actually joined our team. She's still in the hockey community. Yeah, she's fantastic. But I know her and I connected quite a bit when she had hung up her skates and joined our healthcare consulting department. It's been fun to see her grow and translate her hockey skills into our new team.
You think you could hook me up with her and get her on the podcast?
Yeah, for sure. Love that.
Okay, great.
I'm sure there's some other ones too, but yeah.
Well, she's a Wayzata kid, right?
That's right.
I think her brother played at UMD, right?
I'll take your word for it, though.
Did she play at the U, or did she go to Wisconsin?
Oh, gosh, now you're going to challenge me. You'd have to go back in the hockey DB.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you check in with her, and then if she feels comfortable sharing her contact information with me, just let me know.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get you guys connected this week.
All right. Thanks a lot, Justin. Thanks for joining me today. It's been awesome having you on and catching up with you.